My name is Michael L Roberts, and I'm the vocal and piano coach for Rocketman, for all of the cast members. There was certainly a tight turnaround presented in terms of bringing this to the screen, and I was obviously very familiar with Taron's work from Kingsman and other films, but I didn't know necessarily that much of his music capacity other than the bits and pieces of singing he's done. So it was presented to me. I was recommended to the production unit here, and it was asked to do one or two small piano lessons and see what might happen. So I came on board under the proviso that I meet Taron and see what he's like at the piano, if he's played before, if he has any ability, and then assess from there. So I turned up at Abbey Road Studios, which was a nice bit of prestige in which to meet Taron for the first time. We're both Welsh, so we had that to share as we began. And instantly, the minute he sat at the piano, there was a sense about him that he knew exactly what kind of approach he was going to take to this. Very much a visual approach, very much a combination of Little Richard, Jerry Lee Lewis, and Elton John in that sense. So upon seeing his posture, working with him a little bit, and then getting him to improvise with two hands, I quickly knew within 1 hour that this was going to work out very nicely indeed. We had a couple of songs that were key scenes in the movie, essentially, and Dexter Fletcher, the director, very much wanted to point us in that direction from the start. So Taron was very good at explaining how he envisioned his performance in these two songs in particular. He was very open to me starting with a broad sense of, let's see how you are at the piano, and give you a sort of first week of improvisation and warming you up to the idea. But then he was very clear on this sense of how we would microcosm down essentially to note by note, lick by lick, movement by movement, choreographing of the piano performances. So it was very much a sense of, he knew what he wanted out of this. He could already see it on the screen, I think, in his mind's eye, and I quickly saw it too. Fundamentally, in terms of Elton's music, then as a jazz musician, there's very much an awareness of the fact that the kind of harmonic playing he brought to the pop side of things has direct correlation with some of the jazz language that I inhabit. And as such, I even remember a lecturer at university years ago saying, now, if you just listen to a little more Elton John, you might be able to pick up this idea and this idea, because there are facets within there. So certainly for me, enormous familiarity with the body of work, played the songs many times in my own capacity as a pianist and singer. What's been great about this is having a quality music team around, having someone of Taron's ability, and then looking at how we craft this music in order to bring this fantasy biopic aspect to life. So that's been particularly exciting for me, to hear Elton John's music so well reimagined. In terms of what's impressed me the most about Taron, it's been his drive, his focus, and his innate musicality through those sessions that have enabled me to ensure everything is cumulative, rather than having a sense, as is often the case, of you'll get 2 good days and then there's a weekend, and then start the next week and we're all starting from scratch again. Everything has been cumulative, and he's been so driven, so musical, and an all-round pleasure to work with. The two major set pieces in this film, for me, and certainly for Taron in terms of his piano playing, are Crocodile Rock, which takes place at the Troubadour Club in LA, which was Elton's big American break, and Your Song, where we see Elton making the chords of the first workings out of it and then showing it to Bernie Taupin. Crocodile Rock has certainly been the most technically challenging in terms of the speed, the rock and roll elements, boogie-woogie, improvisation, all of these things combined. And the amount of work that Taron has put in to absolutely nail that performance has been truly remarkable. I think, having read the script, I was surprised, quite possibly surprised by the level of warmth that I read in there, and I think that's a lot to do with the director, Dexter Fletcher. He contractually obliged me this morning to say that he is both dangerously intelligent and severely charming. But in all seriousness, I found him to be a wonderful human being, and thoroughly enjoyed working with him. I think in terms of people who haven't necessarily grown up with the sound of Elton John and everything else, then I think that Taron is quite an exciting way into that. into that music. He captures the zeitgeist of this generation, and so to portray Elton's story, to bring his own sense of character to it, and to have such dazzling brilliance, frankly, on screen as we've been seeing in the last few days here shooting, then I think that's going to excite people and bring Elton's music to a much broader audience, as though that were needed. To me, it means your song, and to my family, it means your song. Lyrically, obviously, Bernie Taupin, but the all-round musical impression of Elton John in that regard. I think, being from South Wales, then the Princess Diana funeral moment was an enormity in cultural life, and Elton's association in that moment, I think, is very special to many people. I think what's been nice for me in this, and what will be nice for audiences, is that the Crocodile Rock moment will start to get up there as another landmark moment in Elton's life that people will become familiar with, and I think will connect with him on various levels as musicians, as human beings in that situation.